Hey first year teachers, if you are about to teach middle school or high school, I have got 12 classroom must-haves for you that I truly love and was so grateful for my first year teaching. I will link all the items I talk about in the description, but just remember, do not feel like you have to go spend a ton of money on your classroom for your first year classroom. I'm Ms. Bollier and I'm a full-time middle school teacher. I'm going into my third year and I love sharing all the teacher tips, tricks, and ideas. Make sure you click that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of my other videos. All right, today I'm going to share with you 12 classroom must-haves for a first year middle schooler or high school teacher. I'm a middle school teacher, but I feel like all these items are also must-haves for a high school teacher. And honestly, a lot of these you'll probably find you'll want even as an elementary school teacher, but I know there's lots of elementary school teachers who have videos with first year classroom must-haves. I don't feel like there's that many middle school or high school. So I thought I would share what I think are first year must-haves in a middle school classroom. Number one would definitely be a personal laminator. I would have died without my personal laminator. It is so nice to have one in your own classroom, not have to walk down anywhere else in the school to use it. And I laminated all the things, especially with classroom setup. When you're first decorating your classroom, you will probably laminate a lot. I also like to laminate lots of different labels or things like that with organization. Sometimes I'll print out PowerPoint slides from a presentation and laminate them, and then I will post them up around the room, and I have my students go around the room and take notes that way just to change it up, to get them up and out of their seats. Or it's a really good way to do it if there's a sub. So I definitely use my laminator all the time. I also use my laminator to laminate the quote posters that I have up in my classroom. I have them hanging on clipboards. So I learned real quickly my first year that I needed to have those laminated because, well, middle schoolers. Basically, if you don't want things to get torn or crumpled, wrinkled, you gotta laminate it. I have the Amazon Basics laminator. I've had that one for years now and it has worked great. Along with the laminator, you're obviously going to need laminating pouches, so make sure you have those to go with it as well. Definitely worth it. Definitely worth every penny for the laminator. Okay, number two is a paper cutter. So along with laminating, was cutting out things all the time. Again, especially with classroom setup, but even throughout the school year, I'm still constantly cutting things out. After I laminate things, I'll have to cut them, or if you print things as half sheets, to cut those in half. If you print out any type of cards. This is also a great job for your TA if you have TAs. Having them cut things out for you is a really simple task. Just hand them your cutter and what you need to be cut and they can work on that. So it's really nice to have your own in your classroom. At my school, we do have a cutter in our copy room. I feel like most schools will definitely have one you can access, but again, it was really nice to have it in my own classroom so I didn't have to walk down there and so that I could have it for my TAs to use. I have the Swing Line paper cutter and it has worked really well for me. I'm sure there are plenty of others out there that are great too, but that's one that I have and love. Okay, number three would be a 3-hole puncher. My school has one in the copy room, but it's so nice to just have one in your classroom that you can use whenever you have a minute, or again, have a TA help you to 3-hole punch things. I use this one a lot for me, but also for students. With my foods class, I give them recipes and they compile all the recipes we make so that at the end they have a little recipe book. I found that I used mine all the time. I have the Swing Line 3-hole puncher as well. I have this cute one that has the little gold trim. You don't have to get this one, obviously, but it is cute and it works really well. It's held up really well over the past couple of years. Number four is some type of clicker for your presentations when you're using your projector. I personally love using this Bluetooth wireless computer mouse, because of a couple reasons. So you can use it as a clicker since it is connected via Bluetooth. You can walk around the room. You don't have to be connected, doesn't have to be connected to your laptop or your computer. So you can walk around the room with it, and it is rechargeable, doesn't take batteries, you can just plug it in over the weekend. But I like being able to have it as a mouse as well and not just a clicker. That's just personal preference for me. That way, if I am showing my students how to navigate a website or my Canvas course, that's what we use for our LMS, if I'm showing them any type of tutorial and sharing my screen with them, I don't have to actually be stuck to my laptop or at my desk. I can move around the room, be in the back of the room, and all I need is just like a flat surface to put the mouse on, and I can use it as a computer mouse. That's why I personally love this. It's also very inexpensive, but some type of clicker, highly recommend, so that you can move around and walk around as you are teaching your students. Next up, I recommend getting some 3-ring binders. I love getting the 3-inch, so the really thick ones. I like the ones that are just white and then they have the clear front so that you can stick a paper down the front sleeve to label it, and you can also stick one down the spine. I use these to organize all of my master copies for each class. I am a very digital person. I have everything on Google Drive, but I do like to have my master copies in a binder for a couple of reasons. First of all, the internet goes down sometimes, and if the internet is down and you're needing to make a copy of something and you can't access your Google Drive to send it to the printer, if you already have a master copy in your binder, you can just pull that out and you have it ready to go. Another reason is if you last minute have to have a sub, if you have to call in sick, or like last year, if you suddenly get quarantined, then it is nice to have those in a binder so that you could explain to another teacher or an office secretary how to get to that master copy to make copies for you. Just a lot quicker. If I didn't make any edits to that handout or worksheet that we used the semester before, then I can just pull it out, and I like to make a stack of the things I need to go make copies of. I like to keep my copies in sheet protectors. That way it's easy to put in the binder and it protects them, along with the 3-ring binders, I guess also sheet protectors. And I organize my binders by class, and then within each binder I kind of have it go in order of the way we cover that material. So all of the stuff we cover first, those copies are going to be first, and then it kind of just goes throughout. There are times when I make edits to worksheets or handouts or packets, and so I end up having to print out a new master copy that's updated, and then I'll just switch it out. I'll take the old one out of the sheet protector and put the new one in. That's how I prefer to do it. Some people use filing cabinets. That can work too, but I just prefer binders and sheet protectors. I was so grateful that I had these my first year teaching, because it definitely made my second round teaching all my classes a lot easier. The first time teaching them, I was just mostly building that binder for the class, but then the second round, it was a lot easier having those master copies already in there. The next item I recommend as a first year must-have is some type of letter tray or desk tray, paper tray, whatever you want to call it. I have these black ones. I like the look, the sleek look of just the simple black, and I have so many, probably 20 now. I have constantly just got more and more. I just keep them on my Amazon Classroom wish list because I feel like I can never have enough. I use these when I have a worksheet or handout that students need for the class period. I just put them in a tray and then I put it on the table by our door, and I teach students that they know to check the table every day when they walk in, and if there is a tray there with papers, then they need to grab one of those papers. And there are some days when there's multiple papers they've got to pick up. So it's nice for me to be able to have enough trays that even if I have all my classes having to pick up multiple papers that day, I don't have to switch out the trays. I just will stack my trays. I have these cubbies in my room and I'll stack them on top of there, but stack them away to the side when it's not that class, but that way they're ready to go. So that those 5 minutes between classes, I can quickly switch out the trays for which papers the class needs, and it keeps it really organized. And I like to get the ones ready for the next day ahead of time. There's also days where we do stations. I love doing stations in my class, and a lot of times with stations there's lots of papers that students need. Sometimes I need 2 to 3 trays for a station. If we have 4 or 5 stations, that can add up to a lot of trays. Okay, the next classroom must-have is some type of turn-in baskets. Hopefully you have already been thinking about this, but where are you going to have your students turn things in? Every teacher does it a little differently, and depending on what classes you teach, it could look a little different for you. This is what I use for turn-in baskets. I use these file crates. I have white ones, and I laminated papers and used binder rings to attach them to the front of the turn-in baskets to label them by class period. I like having this big of a turn-in basket for each class period because of the kind of classes I teach. For instance, my sewing classes, when they turn in a sewing project, it's not all gonna fit in a little paper tray. So having these big baskets, it fits a lot more. The other reason I like these is they're easy to transport, and I sometimes have to move classrooms, and so I can take the turn-in basket with me to the other classroom. If we are cooking that day, we have to go into the foods room, and I'll bring the basket with me so we have the same turn-in basket no matter what room we're in. I also like using these file crates because I actually put 2 file folders in the back of each one. One file folder is for no names. That way I can have the no names separated by class period, and students know exactly where they can go to see if there are no names for their class period. The second one is for graded papers that I have graded and are ready to be passed back. That works really well for me. You may not have space in your classroom to have this large of turn-in baskets, and that's okay. If not, again, you can just use those letter trays that I talked about before. Those are really simple, easy way. They don't take up so much space. Pretty much any paper organizer is going to work, but figure out what works for you and your space and the classes that you teach. I think we're on number 8. Next item would be a stapler, except I actually recommend multiple staplers. I know for me, at least with my classes, there are always times my students needed to staple something, and if you only have one stapler for all of them to use, it takes so long. So having multiple staplers is really great. So I like having one on my desk for me to use personally, and then having like 2 or 3 others. And you can keep them in different areas in the room or keep them in a drawer until a time when you actually need all of them. But I have my TA staple things for me all the time. You never know when you're gonna need a stapler. I will say it's nice to have the electric staplers when you are stapling packets or things like that, but not a necessity for a first year. I said I'd give you just the necessities. So it's not a necessity, but it is nice to have. We have access to one in our copy room, so that's just where I normally would staple my packets. At least having multiple normal staplers in your classroom is going to be really helpful. I have these cute gold and white ones. I also have a couple of just the normal black ones. Next item is a tape dispenser, or again, multiple tape dispensers. I was just so surprised how often we were using tape and my students are needing tape. They'll randomly rip their paper and want to tape it, or, I mean, we use it for so many different activities in my classes. Having multiple tape dispensers is nice, but at least having one is going to be very helpful. I, again, love this gold clear one, but you can just get the normal ones as well. Next up is some type of storage cart, drawer cart. I personally have these ones. I have 2 of them, and I use them to organize classroom supplies. So I have like scissors, markers, colored pencils, crayons, glue sticks, rulers. And I like putting them in these drawers because it keeps it organized. They're clearly labeled for students to see. I also like that they're clear so you can see inside. You also have that visual. And it's sometimes nice that it's a drawer that you can just completely take out, because that way if you want to move the entire drawer to a certain spot in the room, you can do that as well. So I like these because they're not too tall that they don't fit under a table. I fit mine right under the table in the back, and it works out really great. Definitely recommend having some type of drawers or storage carts to organize your classroom supply. And depending on what classes you teach, maybe you won't have as many classroom supplies, but something to organize your classroom supplies. Okay, number 11 is a water bottle, specifically an insulated water bottle that will keep your water cold. If you're anything like me, you can't stand warm water. I seriously keep my water bottle on me all the time while teaching because you're talking a lot and you're gonna want water, I promise. I love my thermal flask. I have had it for years and it is amazing. I love the straw lid, but it comes with multiple lids, so if you don't like having a straw, you can have the screw-on type. This water bottle keeps my water cold all day long. Even if you're outside in the sun, it will keep your water cold. It is the best. You definitely want some type of water bottle. And lastly, I will say have an emergency kit in your desk. That could include Band-Aids and other first aid kit type of things. Obviously, if things are real emergencies, you're going to be sending them down to the nurse or to the office, but I can't tell you how many times a student has just needed a Band-Aid for a paper cut or something. It's really nice to have Band-Aids in your desk drawer or somewhere in your classroom. Also include snacks. If you're anything like me, you're gonna need snacks. I always get so hungry between when I ate breakfast and waiting till lunch. So snacks are a lifesaver. And also chocolate. Some days you just need some chocolate. Okay, those are my first year must-haves for you. I hope that those are helpful. Again, everything will be linked in the description. Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe.